Bobby Moresco, writer, director, producer. I was in the middle of a street fight, as was often the case, and I got punched in the stomach, and I thought, that's the weirdest thing. This guy just punched me in the stomach and went all the way through to my back. And I looked down, and my hands were all full of blood, and I said, oh, Jesus, I wasn't punched, I was stabbed. I woke up in the emergency room, and I looked up at the doctor, and I said to him, Doc, am I going to die? And as he puts the oxygen mask over my face, he goes, we don't know, son. And I said, oh, my God, that wasn't what I wanted to hear. And I remember unconsciously saying to myself, you're in a fight. You have to fight to stay alive here. And I lived through it. I got, I don't know, somewhere between 300 and 400 stitches right here. I grew up in New York City, 51st Street, 10th Avenue, Midtown Manhattan. Everybody else calls it Hell's Kitchen. We called it the neighborhood. And a lot of the neighborhood bars, a place called Jimmy Ray's in particular, the guys would hang out there, all of our neighborhood guys, and the actors would hang out there. So at one night, there'd be me and all of my friends, and there'd be Al Pacino in the corner, and those worlds sometimes mixed. Somebody said to me one day, you know, you should think about acting. And I liked it. I liked the world. I liked exploring plays. I liked getting into other people's heads, and I guess I was looking for something. As idyllic as the first 14 or 15 years of my life was, as I got a little bit older, everything changed. I understood there were darker forces that we had to deal with, and I lost a brother to that world. And it began to occur to me that there's a real possibility that some of these people who I love and respect and admire with all my heart and soul are either monsters themselves or capable of doing monstrous things. And then I found myself possibly being capable of monstrous things. I was losing my entire paycheck every week to gambling. I was constantly in fights. I was doing some drugs. And that was one of the things that caused me to run away, because I was about to step over the edge into the abyss. So one day I come home after a 3-day drunken binge. I said to my wife, Barbara, this is going to be my life for the rest of my life if I don't take a shot here, if I don't go after this show business thing. She said, whatever you want. I'll take any life other than drinking and gambling. And I got on a plane, and I arrived in Los Angeles, got off the plane. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where I was going. I got in the cab. I said to the cabbie, take me to a motel in Hollywood. The cabbie dropped me off on La Brea and Sunset at the Stardust Motel. It was me and 100 hookers. And the cabbie said to me, good luck, kid. When I couldn't make a real living as an actor, the only thing I could think of to do was create the work for myself. So I decided to learn something about writing. I don't have a great education. I didn't finish the 9th grade. So I spent about 5 years just reading the great screenplays, the great plays, the great novels, philosophy, and poetry. And then I started writing plays. I opened up my own theater company, and then as I was writing, I started directing, and that led to a play being produced on 28th Street and 6th Avenue at the Actors Outlet Theater. And a producer from Warner Brothers saw it and offered me a job to write a movie for Warner Brothers, a rewrite. Eventually, I wrote a screenplay that Paul Haggis read and hired me to write and produce a show called Easy Streets, which Time magazine said may be the best show in the history of television. Cut to 7 years later, me and Haggis are both out of television, pretty much going broke, because we had just written $1 Million Baby, which he wrote first and brought me aboard later, and then Crash, which we did together. Neither one had gotten made. We were both broke, and then we get finally enough to get Crash made, and then we get $1 Million Baby made, and we win Best Picture of the Year for both. Hooray, 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 right? My favorite story about Clint is we called him up and said, what about rewrites? And this is quintessential Clint. He said, no, I like the script. There were no rewrites. He literally shot the script. I mean, it's unheard of in Hollywood. He's so secure in what he knows that he wants to do that he just does it. I'm not silly enough to believe because I won an Oscar I'm a better writer than I was yesterday. I'm still struggling through like every other writer. People start knocking on your door as opposed to you knocking on their door. That's a great thing. My wife and I have been so close to being homeless, I can't tell you how many times. I mean, I remember waking up one day, and Barbara was sitting at the table crying, and she said, you know, we have all of these bills, and we have $42. So I said, let's go to breakfast. She said, what? I said, let's go to breakfast. What are we going to do, pay one bill? Let's enjoy the day, and then I'll figure out what to do. And I went and I got a second job, and we were able to pay the bills. I was a cab driver. I was a security guard. I was a bartender for a long time. I worked in construction. I painted houses. I was not very good at painting houses. I think I painted 3 houses before I found out there was something called Prime. Those poor people, you know, if I knew who you were today, I'd pay you back, I promise you. Even after I won the Oscar, I literally had a moment where I said to myself, okay, I probably won't have to fall back on bartending now. I'd probably be okay for a little bit. Hell's Kitchen came out to Hollywood to watch the Oscars that night. There were 40 friends from the old neighborhood out here. A lot of them, thank God, are still around. A lot of them, unfortunately, got caught up in the other side of the tracks and they're gone. When I lost my brother, I couldn't deal with it on an emotional or intellectual level until I finally wrote a play about it. And that took me about 8 years. I wasn't any better than any of my friends who fell over that edge. I just made a different choice, but these were good people. I know when people read about the horrible things they did, it's hard to believe when they hear somebody like me say they were good people too. But they were. That's the contradiction. And I'm always trying to understand the questions of loyalty and betrayal and family and brotherhood, and how really great and tremendous people, the kind of people that I grew up with, the kind of people I love more than anything else on the face of the earth, could turn into monsters and still be those people that I love. Whether I'm doing a play or a movie or a television show, some aspect of that is drawn into my approach to the work. I was smart enough to understand one thing early on. It's that nobody could stop me from doing what I want to do. The only thing they could stop me from doing was getting paid at it. So now the question becomes, do you care about getting paid as a writer, or do you care about writing? You give your heart and soul. When you make a movie or a television show or do a play, it's a war. It's a battle that can't be won, and you find a way to win it. When it's over, you start the next war. And that's hard. That's clawing at the walls with your fingernails. That's banging on the fences until you're bloody. They asked Neil Simon, who is America's most prolific playwright, what differentiates you from other writers? Why are you so prolific? And Neil Simon said, I think the thing that makes me different from other writers is I'm able to sit at my desk every day for 8 hours whether I'm writing or not. It's a job. It's like digging ditches. The hole's not going to get dug unless you move the shovel. You can learn about how to be good at what we do. You can't learn on how to make money, and you can't learn on how to be famous. There's no way to do it. So if you want those other things, making money or be famous, go do something else.